Welcome to Blackbriar Gaming. Bit of a catch-all video today. I want to look at the latest leaks for the upcoming Journal Tactica, the Forges of Saturn. Now I know the SN crew did a bit of a review on it, but they didn't include all the details, and I figure putting these up in front of everyone would let people make their own minds up with a bit more information. We've also got the best upcoming Heresy releases I've seen in a while, and on top of that, we've got a fun little Henry Cavill Easter egg. So let's get into it. First up, the leaks. So yes, the SN crew did a review. They skipped over a bunch of detail. Luckily, we've got a few cheeky pics of the pages that we really care about, the detachments, the new Thousand Suns arcana, and the units from the book. So getting into it, we've got here the detachments. So we've got what looks like a line breaker echelon and a maelstrom sentry battery. Now the line breaker echelon is an apex detachment. You've got two heavy assault slots there, a retinue slot, and that war machine slot. Now war machine slots are of course at a premium. Usually you can only take one dreadnought per detachment. So I think this detachment is going to be extremely popular, but it does have a restriction on it, and it's good to see. So it's not just that the detachments they're including in the Journal Tacticas are better, they may be, but they've also come with a bit of a twist, a bit of a theme, a bit of a penalty or requirement to bring them to the table. In this way, we're starting to see detachments get a little more interesting, and I think this is very purposeful. The ones in the core rulebook and in the army books were very vanilla, and I think that was purposefully done to form a baseline, and then within the Journal Tacticas, we start to see some more spice. In this case, it's that the heavy assault slots and the retinue slot must have either the Saturnine, Cataphracti, or Tartarus words in their titles. So awkwardly described as a rule. They could have, of course, just included in these units traits like the Saturnine or Cataphracti trait or Tartarus trait, and that I think would have been a lot more elegant and would have avoided these awkward wordings where they have to talk about how you need those words to be in the unit name. Very funny, but essentially what it means is that if you go with Tartarus, it means that the heavy assault slots in your retinue slot must have Tartarus Terminators or Tartarus Command Squad. Same Saturnine. If you're having Saturnine Terminators in those heavy assault slots, you then have the Saturnine Command Squad, which comes in this same Journal Tactica, and we'll look at in just a minute. Now this, of course, is good as a detachment because you've got that prime slot there to take a prime advantage where you can up the combat prowess of that unit, I dare say is probably what you want to use it for, or to open up some other advantages for taking various units with some logistical benefits. But I think this is a great detachment when you've got that selection of powerful slots within it. I don't think you can go particularly wrong, and I think this is going to be very popular for people being able to take just a lot of the Saturnine units in particular to the battlefield with Saturnine Terminators, 2 squads, a Saturnine Command Squad, and then maybe a Saturnine Dreadnought. But of course that War Machine slot can be filled by a non-Saturnine Dreadnought. It could be a Contemptor or a Leviathan, whatever you will, but love the theme where you just go real hard with a whole lot of Saturnine action in this, and it kind of opens up the options in the book, which is nice. Next, we've got the Maelstrom Sentry Battery. Now, when a Masters of Signals unit is selected to fill a Command Force Organization slot, then the player may choose to add one Maelstrom Sentry Battery Auxiliary Detachment, what a mouthful, to the army instead of the options available in the Crusade Force Organization chart. So, you've got to have a Masters of Signals unit. I think the Master of Signals is going to be pretty popular, so I don't think that's going to be a stretch for a lot of players. I think they'll be more than happy to go down that route. Then it opens up 2 support slots and 3 recon slots. Now, the support slots must only be used to select Arachne Quad Accelerators, and the recon slots only for Tarantula battery units. Now, to take this amount normally would be multiple detachments and quite difficult to do. And if you want to go really down the platform, the batteries, how do we describe these? The kind of automated weapons systems route, if that's a theme you're really interested in going for. Maybe an Iron Warriors army might go down there. Maybe a Thousand Suns army, if they're that way inclined and they want to protect, the precious life of their psychers. Plenty of armies might go this way. Imperial Fists, all kinds of narrative and theme behind this. But if you really want a whole lot of sentries and very batteries, arachne platforms and tarantulas, spider-themed weapon platforms, then this is a way to do it, and it's a really nice way to do it. And look, I think those units are pretty powerful. That's what we've been hearing. That's what people are saying. I haven't yet tested them on the battlefield, so I can't speak from experience, but they certainly look good. The expendable piece is significant, and being able to have those... I wonder if the tarantula batteries can benefit from the invul save of the Arachne Quad Accelerator. I don't think so for whatever reason, because it's wholly within, so you're going to really struggle. But you might be able to. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's an infantry-only piece either. I'd have to look into it. But either way, I think this is going to be, once again, another popular detachment, and it's good to see theme really start to come through in the detachments in these Journal Tacticas. Moving on from it though, that's the simple stuff. Let's get into things that are a little more exciting. So now we have the various units. So we're going to start off here, and yes, I do apologize for the glare on this page. Some of these leaked pics are always very entertaining, but we have here the Centurion in Saturn Terminator armor. Just a good unit. And so we didn't have the Centurion, obviously, originally included in the book. You went kind of Praetor in Saturn armor and then straight down to the Terminators with nothing in between. So it's nice to see the Centurion coming through here. Always, that seems to have been their plan. Does it feel a little like you have to pay to unlock units? A bit, but can you just use this picture that's all over the internet and play with it? Also, yes, so let's not get too stressed about it. Now, of course, Centurions are excellent. We know that. We're seeing them come through in a lot of army lists because they have that very important officer of the line. Now, when you put that officer of the line in a big bulky suit of Saturn Terminator armor with some great weapons, things start to get pretty wonderful. So it is 150 points, so not the cheapest character in the world, and it's really not bringing you much besides the Officer of the Line piece. You do have that high weapon skill, ballistic skill. You've got, some more attacks than your regular Saturn Terminator, more wounds, etc. You've got great leadership, better cool, all these kind of things coming through. So is the Centurion Saturn Terminator armor worth it? I think if you're going to go heavy down the Saturn route for theme, more so probably than power, then yeah, you betcha. Opening up a bunch of detachments with this unit is fantastic and worthwhile, and gives you a different kind of character as opposed to the Praetor to bring in your Saturn heavy army. So I think we will see this Centurion see play if people are going for that heavier assault theme over just a regular dude in kind of artificer armor hanging out and trying to stay out of trouble with the regular Centurion. I think they'll go down this route and get some real power out of these weapons and out of that Officer of the Line piece. So nothing overly complex or interesting there. It's just a Saturn character that unlocks detachments. Here we do see for the first time this Saturn teleport synchronizer, though once again it's almost like they wrote the original rules in the rulebook without thinking about future Saturn releases at all, which is hilarious and awkward, because of course the Praetor with its Saturn teleport transponder, I want to say, please correct me in the comments, I know you will if I'm wrong, that only gives the deep strike rule to Saturn Terminators that join that Praetor. And of course, this isn't a Saturn Terminator, it's a Centurion in Saturn Terminator armor. The naming getting awkward there. I feel like some traits could have fixed this problem, could have had like a Saturn trait, and the transponder could have just enabled everyone with the Saturn trait to be able to deep strike with them. But that's not the route they went down. Instead, they now have to introduce this extra piece of war gear with the extra special rule. And what this just means is that you can put this Centurion and the other units we'll look at today in a unit with your Saturn Praetor, and they can deep strike in with them. So that's what that's all about. It's essentially just to fix up some awkward rules writing in the first place. Nothing overly exciting or to get excited about. Moving on, we've got the Saturn Terminator Command Squad. Now this one I'm a little more excited about. The Centurion unlocks detachments, sure. This one here is a whole nother way, really, to look at your Saturnites. So one of the biggest weaknesses we saw with the Saturnines was, of course, that in combat, they just kind of sucked. Yes, their fists were good-ish, but with only 2 attacks and weapon skill 4, they were going to really, and that lower initiative as well, they were really going to struggle in combat. Well, here we have the Saturnine Terminator Command Squad, who will not struggle in combat. These guys will do some pretty serious work. Now, they're not fantastic. Let's just put that out there right now. And I think that can be said for really everything that we're seeing in these Journal Tacticas. Nothing here is overly powerful, or I think will be overly impactful to, whatever kind of meta evolves in Horus Heresy. And it might be that a meta never really evolves, because that's not how we play this game. We play it for the narrative. We play it for the enjoyment and for the hobby and for the stunning armies on the tabletop. We don't play it to smash our opponents in the face. And that seems to be the theme that the Journal Tacticas are carrying through, is that what they're giving us is a lot of interesting options to carry through a theme, to carry through a narrative, to do interesting things and conversions with our models, as opposed to just unleash absolute havoc on our opponents. And that is definitely the case with our command squad. So for just 2 models, you're paying 160 points, but at that point, it's only 60 points per model, which is, of course, the same price you're paying for just a regular Saturnine Terminator. So what do you get above and beyond with these guys that you don't get, or that you're getting, as I said, above and beyond your regular Terminators? So obviously a extra weapon skill point, which is great. You've got the high cool there across all the units, not just the sergeant or the chosen champion, as it were, is what it's called in this unit here. And that's kind of about it from a stat point of view. You've then got the paired Saturnine Disruption Fists, and I actually really like these. So the paired Saturnine Disruption Fists give you +1 attack is the important part. Here, that's taking you up to 4 attacks per model, which is certainly nothing to sniff at all. You do have the option for these to take the war axes, to take concussion hammers. Things start getting pretty pricey as you do that, but those are both excellent weapons. And what I think we'll see is people kitting out these squads with a range of different weapons for a few reasons. One, because getting your hands on those weapons is really difficult, because at the moment they're only, from my understanding, unless the Praetors available separately, coming in the Saturnine box set. And even if they don't, you have to buy a Praetor to get your hands on these weapons. So I think we'll see a few different weapons across the command squads, just because that's the weapons that people have. So that's how they'll spread them out, and getting your hands on 3 axes, for instance, could be quite difficult. I haven't seen any 3D printed options yet, but certainly if you have, feel free to chuck them down in the comments. We are a pro 3D printing channel here, and I dare say, if we haven't already, we will soon see 3D printed or third-party bit options to help us bring this unit to life. But I think we'll see some people taking some axes, some concussion hammers, and some paired fists within the one unit to give themselves a bit of flexibility. I don't think either of those options is optimal or better than the others. I think they all have different purposes, but my preference would be just sticking with the paired Saturnine Disrupted Fist, because I think that extra attack is really great. And strength 6 is pretty good against most things, unless you're planning on hitting these guys into Terminators or whatnot, in which case maybe you want a bit of extra strength there. But AP2, damage 3, all really good. The -2 to initiative is a bit rough on those paired fists, because of course it takes them down to initiative 1. That initiative 3 is pretty crippling. Now, what would I do with these guys? Once again, they've got that Saturnine teleport synchronizer piece, so you could teleport them in with a Praetor, and then just give them all a bunch of particle shredders and just go to absolute town with murdering tactical squads, other things with 3+ armor saves. They're there to disrupt your enemy's line units. Seems to be the general gist of this unit. But a great option is to have that Legion Standard as well. So that gives you not only the +2 to your combat resolution, it also counts as 6 models when talking about challenges with that outside support piece and making your character much better in challenges. And of course, you can see here that the Chosen Champion does have the champion keyword trait, whatever we want to call it there. So that will allow that model to get into challenges. So having that Legion Standard in the unit is definitely worthwhile, and I imagine this unit is probably with a Praetor somewhere, a Saturn Praetor, either deep striking in or not, and therefore helping him out in challenges as well. Deep striking, probably not the best way to use this unit. I do like the particle shredder idea of just unleashing templates on your opponent out of nowhere, but I think more yeah, that's probably a word, we'll see them shoved in some Spartans and sent flying towards your opponent's lines. So that's the Saturn Terminator Command Squad. I think for the points you're paying at them, they're pretty good. Coming in at the same cost, kind of, as the just Saturn Terminators regular dudes, and being able to take kind of the same weapons, although things start getting a little more expensive, but having that close combat focus and being so much better in close combat, I think is really spicy. And once again, it means you can take out a nice Saturn themed army. You can go entirely Saturn if you're that way inclined. You shouldn't, but you could. But if you're really leaning into the Saturn piece, this just gives you a unit that does something really different to the regular Terminators. Gives you that close combat focus piece that we were missing in the Saturn armor, which is great, because if you love Saturn, that's what you want to be doing. You want to be putting as many Saturn boys in your army as you can. So moving on from the Command Squad, we'll go to another unit before we look at the Arcana. We're looking at here the Freitas, I think Freitas, Anointed Conclave. So this is the Word Bearers only unit, unless of course you're Alpha Legion, and then I think you might be able to take them as well. And we've got here a Word Bearers specific Saturn unit. Now, will this hint at us seeing a bunch of other Legion specific Saturn units? I think the answer is yes. In fact, I think that might have already actually been confirmed, that there are a bunch coming. You know, a World Eaters Saturn squad, for instance, that's crazed and running forward and doing shenanigans. But here we've got the first one, and it's World Eaters specific. Now, they're a little more expensive. And when I say a little more expensive, I mean significantly more expensive, 240 points for just 3 of them. But what are you getting for that? Only 65 points there, so only 5 points extra per model once you start adding additional ones, but that base cost is quite expensive compared to your regular Saturn Terminators. But what are you getting? So, you've got the weapon skill of 5, much like the Command Squad. You've got that extra attack, much like the Command Squad, which is great. In all ways, I think the stats are just identical to the Command Squad. So, that's a good start. In the War Gear, you've got the Paired Disruption Fist option again, which I think is pretty good, but you've also got here the Warp Fire Mantle. Now, what does that do? Well, the Warp Fire Mantle grants models the chance to inflict wounds against nearby units when they are hit by shooting attacks. So essentially, enemy models within 8 inches, if they shoot at you, and in that toughness, you have to pass a save. Mantles, which, yep, you have to pass the save, and then units within 8 of one of your models has to take a toughness check, and if it fails, it takes D3 automatic wounds with a damage characteristic of 1 and AP of 2 with no saving throws of any kind allowed. I don't think they're even getting invulnerable saves against this, unless I'm mistaken. So this is fun. That's about it. It's a bit of fun. It's going to take off a few models here and there, but if you do deep strike these guys in, and you can importantly take a teleportation transponder within this unit, which is excellent, because so far it's only the Saturn Praetor that can take that. Now this unit can just take it itself, so it doesn't need to be babysat by a Praetor to be able to deep strike in, and then you do deep strike into your enemy's lines. Well, let's say they've got a heavy support squad or a support squad with melter guns or las cannons, whatever that's looking like, and they want to fire at your anointed, and they're nice and close because you deep struck in to make sure that was the case. They might think twice about it, because losing 3 models with las cannon, that's an expensive loss. Now it is only, of course, D3, so they might just lose 1, but losing a few, that's kind of nice. I mean, you can't be sad about that at all. That's worth a few points. So that is the Warpfire Mantle. I think it's good fun and does enhance that deep striking ability there. Not against tanks, of course. It's a toughness test, so it won't work against tanks, and the tougher the unit shooting at you, the less chance it has of getting off. With the other options you've got here, War Gear specific for this unit, you can take the War Axes if you're that way inclined. You can't take the is it the concussion hammer? Is that what that thing was called? Yeah, you can't take a Saturn 9 concussion hammer, but you can take the war axes, which are a great option. But once again, the fists are pretty good, right? So if you want to keep them cheap, you stick with the fists. You can get other weapons in here, so you can go with the heavy disintegrators, you can go with the plasma bombards if you're that way inclined, but particle shredders are, again, an option for this unit, and I think if you're going to deep strike them in, fists with particle shredders are the way to go. Now, where this unit really shines is in their special rules. Now, there's a bit of glare there, but if we have a close look, we can see that they've got the A Flame 2 special rule, or as I like to call it, poor man's fear. So what A Flame means is that if you wound your opponent in the combat phase, and I think it's wound, not hit, and you're in combat with them in the combat phase, and that kind of implies it, they are at -2 in this case because of the 2 being in the brackets. They're at -2 for their leadership check if they were to lose that combat. So it's just a really good chance that your opponent, if they don't win the combat, is going to be failing that leadership check and getting the routed status, which for this unit, that's what you want. You want your opponent getting out of there, routing, so that you can try and chase them down and stay engaged with them in whatever way. If you can. I'm not sure if the slow and purposeful or implacable advance stops you from doing that, but I guess you just keep shooting at them, right? I'd be interested to know if particle shredders as template weapons can still shoot at a unit that has run with the routed status. It might be that it can't because of the template nature of the weapon. So it might be in that case, it might be worth looking at the twin heavy disintegrators for this unit, or the plasma bombards, so that you can get those shots off when they run, because I have a feeling this unit won't be able to chase them down. I could do the research now and find out, but I won't. I'm just going to make bold, wild assumptions, because that's kind of what I'm here for. But that's the word bearers unit. So the real power here comes from that teleportation transponder, being able to take them. Their special rules, A Flame being one, Eternal Warrior being the main one there. I hadn't mentioned that yet. That's my bad. That's actually the most powerful part of this unit. Eternal Warrior is great on anything it's on. And for a Saturn 9 squad, to have Eternal Warrior is absolutely excellent, because of course they have those 3 wounds, that 6 toughness. Eternal Warrior just makes them so much tougher. That is reducing the damage incoming to them from weapons with damage 2 or 3. So that's wonderful. Eternal Warrior, spicy, worth the points just because of that. And then you've got all the other fun stuff that comes with the unit. So I think word bearers, these are going to be pretty popular for them. Why would you take regular Saturn 9 Terminators when you can take these demon boys? I think they're pretty fantastic. So that is all the units in the book. We've got the Centurion, we've got the Command Squad, and we've got this Freitas Anointed Conclave. Now, the last thing we're going to look at from the Journal Tactica is the Osirian. Maybe? I want to say a siren, but it's just not. It's Osirian, yep. Arcana that we have specifically for Saturn 9 units and walkers, because why not? So what this does is add an extra Arcana option for the Thousand Suns, and it gives them the ability to have the psychometry, some of these words, people, psychic power, and the machine empathy psychic power. Now, the psychometry power here is actually really good. So it can be used in the shooting phase to decrease the value of the overload special rule on a unit's weapons. Now, Saturn 9s are, of course, just packed out with weapons with overload. You've got your particle shredders, you've got your disintegrators. The twin heavy disintegrators, unfortunately, do have overload too. So in this case, it would not completely remove the overload ability special rule on those weapons. It would just be overload 1 instead, which is still not optimal, but I guess better than overload 2, right? But getting rid of overload completely on the particle shredders, as an example, is actually really nice. So I think that that psychic power is going to be very popular for Saturn 9 units. You could too put it on a Centurion or Praetor in Saturn 9 Terminator armor, and I don't believe I'm wrong. I think you can mix armor marks now between putting characters in units. So the Centurion, for instance, might be a good option, whereby you give them the psychometry psychic power. They can then use it. Oh, does it work? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe the arcanas only work when everyone in the unit has the same one. But if that's not the case, and I'm actually about to start writing my Thousand Suns list, so I'll know the answer to that very soon. Thousand Suns, how to build video, I should say. So I will know the answer to that very soon. But if you're able to mix arcanas in a unit and still use both of them, I could see this being really popular for a Centurion Saturn Terminator armor that could then sit with some Legion veteran units packed out with disintegrator weapons. Wouldn't that be absolutely fantastic? I'm in fact going to go and check after this video whether I am able to do that, because that's actually a really spicy combination that I think could be really good, because that overload, those disintegrator rifles are so cheap, and the reason they're so cheap is because of that overload piece. So if you can undermine that and take that away with just a Centurion that you want to buy anyway to unlock the rest of your army, I think that would be really nice. Now, the other piece here is the machine empathy. So a second psychic power, which is fun. And this one is all about wounds. Now, I thought that was kind of interesting because it's machine empathy. So surely that should give you the ability to bring hull points back to vehicles. Well, that's not the case here. What it does is allow you to gain 1 wound on a target model. Now, it's a little strange. So, noting, however, that this is Saturn Terminators that we're talking about, so they have 3 wounds a pop. The characters obviously have more. So, the fact that you'll have models with remaining or less than their starting wounds, I think will be quite common. So, I do like that there's that synergy there, and that makes a lot of sense. The other piece was, of course, that it can be walkers. So your dreadnoughts can have this psychic power and can just be giving themselves back wounds. That is nuts. A Saturn dreadnought that's just healing itself with a wound every turn, I think will be an absolute nightmare for your opponent to try and take down. Although I do believe the arcana although it's not an arcana, it's a psychic power, I think, where you can give that Saturn dreadnought +2 to its toughness. That also is absolutely fantastic. So, you're tossing up between them. Can you use both? I'm not sure. These are things I'm going to be diving into. But already, these 2 extra powers are getting me thinking about different synergies and different ways that you could use them. And I think it's really nice. I would have liked to see the machine empathy, noting that it has the word machine in the title, be able to bring back hull points for vehicles. They've decided not to do that for whatever reason, but so be it. They even talk about rent ceramite and together ruptured power systems. They're talking about the Terminator armor there, I suppose, but I don't know. I would have liked to see hull points on that. It is what it is. So that's the Osirian. Jeez, I don't feel wonderful about the way I've pronounced that. Please, in the comments, let me know how you're pronouncing it, and if you think it's slightly different. I think it's a pretty good arcana, and for just a cheeky 10 points on a unit, giving them these abilities, I think is really nice, and the Overload one in particular, I think will be very popular for Saturn units if Thousand Sun players decide to go down that route. And look, I've seen some amazingly painted Thousand Sun Saturn, so I dare say people will be, just because they look so damn pretty. I can't wait to convert up my Saturn Praetor. Actually, I've got the extra, because I'm doing Thousand Suns, I've got the extra Thousand Sun kit, the 40k one, just your regular, what do they even call them? Just the regular Marine guys, the dust guys. Wow, no. It's not there, but some of the extra cool conversion bits you get in there, you can just make an absolutely amazing looking Thousand Sun Praetor with those bits. So that is the Journal Tactica. What do I think of it? Overall, on top of this, you've got the missions. You've got that really asymmetric mission at the front. You've then got a bunch of extra, I think they're called onslaught missions. Go to the SN Crew video for those. They go into them in quite a bit of detail, as well as letting you have a good look at them. If you can't wait for the book to come out in a week or two. For Australia, it'll be even longer because, of course, they're delayed for Australia and I think New Zealand as well. So we're going to have to wait a little longer to get our hands on those Journal Tacticas. It is the curse of being down south, but for all those others that are getting your hands on them very soon, I think it's a pretty good book and I think it's worthwhile. I think the units that are in here are great. The Arcana's interesting for the Thousand Sun player, and I think the missions in particular will add a bit more flavor to your games of Heresy, because the 3 missions that you get in the rulebook, you can only play them so many times before you've just had enough. So I think these Journal Tacticas are going to be very important for keeping this game fresh and keeping Heresy players engaged and giving tournament organizers and event organizers more missions to use, to base their own off, to inspire them, give them ideas, or simply give them missions to put within their events. So this Journal Tactica gets a thumbs up, not 2 thumbs up, but it gets a thumb up. It is, I think, an improvement from what we saw with the Istvan Journal Tactica, and I think that's a good sign of things to come. Once again, I think they're starting at a pretty slow and steady pace. They're not doing anything too wild. They don't want to disrupt the apple cart early on, but I think these books will start to get a bit more interesting, engaging, and spicier as we dive into this game over the next year or two. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was pre-orders, because there are some doozies of pre-orders for this week. These were announced, was it yesterday or the day before? We've got the Fellblade Super Heavy Battle Tank coming to pre-orders, which besides the ridiculous quad heavy bolters and the way they've modeled those, this model is absolutely stunning. What an amazing tank, and so amazing that we're seeing huge Legion vehicles coming out in plastic. I think it's going to be really popular. It's great on the table. Super heavy vehicles are now actually playable in the new edition. So many things needed to change from 2nd to 3rd, and this was definitely one of them, in that super heavy vehicles in 2nd edition were just absolute trash. In 3rd edition, they are strong. Get the Fellblade on the table, play with it, you will be impressed. It will always do what you want it to. The other pre-order, and this one actually excites me far more than the Fellblade, is the Mark II Assault Squad. These miniatures are just absolutely fantastic. This is the kind of brutal aesthetic for Heresy that I'm just so into. I don't think they're overdone, which is great, because that's a habit that we've seen of GW lately with all of its miniatures, let alone Horus Heresy ones. I think these are really nice, simple miniatures that just have a real savage piece to them. The axes are excellent. World Eaters players are obviously going to be very, very excited. But wow, Mark II it's the best armor, people. I'm gonna put it out there now. It's the best armor, and that we're now getting these extra units in Mark II is just such a treat. Cannot wait to get my hands on this unit and get them into my army. A+, Games Workshop, Mark II Assault Squad, A+. Breaches can't be that far away. So exciting. And then, of course, you've got the Journal Tactica for Heresy there as well in the pre-order piece. We've then got these combat forces. So we've got a Legiones Astartes combat force, which is a bunch of Mark VI lads. You've got some heavy weapons in there. You've got a Leviathan Dreadnought and a Rhino. That's a really good start for an army. I don't see anything wrong with that. I won't be putting Mark VI into my Thousand Suns army. I like to keep my marks pretty staple, stagnant, what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent within my army. So I won't be diving into Mark VI for my Thousand Suns, but I've got some Alpha Legion there. And if I was looking to expand out that army, I think this would be a great start. Rhinos in particular have had quite the glow up in 3rd edition, so it's nice to see one of them included in this Legiones Astartes combat patrol. The Leviathan, not as exciting as it once was, but those weapons can still do some absolute work, and that's where certainly Dreadnoughts are shining, is probably in their shooting ability in the new edition, and a Leviathan's going to do some pretty serious work for you while being pretty tough still. So I think that combat force is a tick. The next one is a Mechanicum combat force. You've got a bunch of automata here. You've got the 2 Castellax battle automata. You've got a Thanatar there, and you've got the 6 Thalax. So that's a really nice start for a Mechanicum list. So once again, great tick there. And then you've got the Solar Auxilia combat force, which is a nice way. So you've got to accept, I think, if you want to go down the Solar Auxilia or Militia route, you're just going to be paying through the nose to do it. But this combat force hopefully will at least let you have some savings, and these are all units that you want to be putting into your army. So some great pre-orders this week for Horus Heresy. A great sign that they are supporting this edition and getting units, extra new exciting things out to us at a pretty impressive pace. We were originally told not to get too excited about those teasers that we saw long ago, and that we'd have to wait for them, but that we've already got the Assault Squad in our hands in a week or two is absolutely fantastic. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about was a little Easter egg we saw. So this has just been all over the nerd community because, of course, it is. People can't help themselves. Henry Cavill seems to have hurt his leg. That doesn't interest me so much. What does is the picture of his broken or injured foot there, and you've got just to the left a whole bunch of Horus Heresy books. So that's absolutely excellent. All the 3rd edition rule books and army books you can see there, and a pen looks like he's writing up some army lists. So we know that Cavill is a Custodes player, but I dare say if he's looking at that books, and I think that's a trader book on the top there, maybe he's getting into a bit of a different legion and diving into the heresy. So Henry, if you're listening, feel free to get in contact with the channel. If you want to be involved, we could do a bit of a show on whatever legion you're getting into and how to build that legion out. I think that'd be a bit of fun. So feel free to get in contact with my people and we'll do some heresy things together. But that's it for today. So I just wanted to talk through the leaks for the Journal Tactica to make sure everyone had the information available to them. For those that hadn't yet seen those leaks, I wanted to have a look at those pre-orders and a bit of fun around Henry and his heresy adventures. Me, I'm currently working away on the next script for the How to Build a Legion series. I did mention it. It's going to be the Thousand Suns up next. If you're interested in early access to those videos and shaping which legion gets covered next, check out the link below to the Blackbriar Gaming Discord. But importantly, make sure to keep rolling those dice and getting hyped for Heresy.